We live. Very first Futbol Americano live anything. Broadcast, song.
Hello. Just kidding.
It's been the first time in a long time that we've even been in the same room. I'm trying to figure out how we can tell our audio levels. I'm it. Right out. Well, we're assuming you can hear us. So just make sure you keep your voice up. So I think we've been muted for quite some time now. And he wasn't saying anything.
I knew we were on mute. That's why I didn't say anything.
I was really wondering why you weren't saying anything.
I had no idea.
Wondering why the hell I'm saying anything. But basically this was going to be called Frontline Introspectives until we realized that probably wouldn't have come off as good, seeing as although frontline retail from a certain perspective is correct, we're not really frontline workers who, obviously the heroes of the last year or so and will continue to be so, which is why they're rightly on the first rounds for these help me out. The vaccines. Goodness gracious.
COVID. So we could have used Frontline 3 years ago when I said, hey, we're the Frontline of retail, but now
might have made some sense.
Well, we were good.
Not so much.
At that, and then you just have a retail guy come here and says, hey, and some retail people are doing a lot of important frontline stuff. It's the reason why we have food at home. But
correct.
For me, who sits at a desk at home, to come on and be a guest for a Frontline podcast, it would be really
we don't like that. So really, this is a public service for anybody that maybe has never been in a position where you've been in between somebody's money and their stuff. And as remedial as that might sound, if you've never been in that spot, it's tough, whether it's restaurants, whether it's retail, not the easiest way to go. So I wanted to give a bit of a platform to different people to let others understand. If you've never been in that spot, it's important that you understand what that spot is and how they perceive things, as well as how you perceive things. We can certainly be, a lot of folks have been on both ends of a lot of these different things. So we can all get on a level playing field as far as understanding from time to time, but it's tough if you've never been there. So the reason why we have my man
Thiago
on hand today is he did quite a bit of time for a frontline retail organization, both an online presence as well as a retail presence. We won't use the name. We'll say I'll use something that sounds similar, but try to not give it. We'll say Barget. But for a long time, he was a Barget employee in charge of protecting the assets and profits of this particular building. So a couple of different things I wanted to, ask him about, get his perspectives, a couple different, areas to look at and different things if you've never been in that realm, kind of how you can help understand it a little further. Like, what have you seen? What are some things that you've seen that you would call the most notable, type of things that maybe you talk about at a party after a couple beers when everybody's giving horror stories of the job? Like, what are some things that you've seen that are stuck in your mind?
I mean, we've seen so much, but coming up at parties.
Anything
I feel like if we start from the beginning and talk about the first time you and I watched somebody and how that came about.
Well, this does boil down to, perception. Boy, perception is a bitch sometimes. Used to go in and visit him in the office in all these retail stores. And again, folks, if you don't know, in this type of organization, in a larger, I guess, big box store, is what you could classify it as, but you're going to see a room that's dedicated to watching every single going on of the whole place. There's cameras everywhere. You might not know they're there. They move. They're all over the place, and they're there for a reason, because even sometimes slightly innocuous looking scenarios will pop up that turn out to be far more sinister than originally appear. One time upon walking into his office while he is looking at these cameras and going through different parts of the store, I chastise him for watching a gentleman in a wheelchair. Boy, I thought that was such a mean thing to be doing, and I couldn't fathom it. And this was like an eye-opening experience because I said, you scumbag, you're watching the wheelchair guy? What's the wheelchair guy going to do? Seconds after the breath escaped my lips from those last words, this man started cutting open video games and putting them amongst the pages in the notebook that was on his lap that no one would have questioned him about had we not seen this. So where do we go from there?
Well, maybe we should talk about how it started, because I also felt like a scumbag when you walked in and said, you scumbag, you watched the guy in the wheelchair. So my first thought is, shoot, maybe I am kind of a scumbag.
How can I do this?
But I wasn't just watching a random guy. So someone who had grabbed a lot of video games without looking at title, price, or anything, and he was putting them in his lap like he had already selected. If you go get a video game, maybe you get one, the Madden release, something like that. You don't know what you're going for, but if you're grabbing a bunch of video games off of a random,
so that's a warning sign. So that's interesting. That's not something that somebody like I never would have taken that into account. But you're randomly grabbing titles that may be something that doesn't seem like a lot if you're not watching, but if you know what you're looking for, that actually makes sense.
You're grabbing stuff without looking at it. You're gonna buy clothes, you gotta look at it first, or you don't just grab it and go. So this guy had grabbed 4 or 5 out of a clearance end that. It's not somewhere you know where you're going. You usually go there to try to get a cheap game.
Pick and choose. You go slow. You read the titles. Yep.
And as soon as you walked in, the guy starts cutting him open, putting it on his blanket like nothing's going to happen. So now he's walking out the door. He's got 2 people. This guy's got to be, 45 maybe?
He's probably 45. I think the gentleman with him that I think at different points was his brother, his father, and then again, ultimately his handler. He was probably about 60 years old. So we had about a 45-year-old, 60-year-old, something like that.
With my dad and us. So we stopped the guy, and we weren't going to let him walk out. I wasn't looking to. Right. I was looking at the video game. I wasn't looking to
You're not going to
punish the guy or anything.
Right.
We're just going to take the video games back. But we can't speak with the guy. He's not making any.
He's not making any sense.
He's kind of.
What did his dad tell us?
So his dad said he had just gotten out of the hospital.
And he's on his way back to the hospital as well.
Yep. And he has no tongue.
Methadone psychosis, folks, and no tongue. So when we were trying to get his name from him, he wasn't able to tell us what his name was because he had no tongue. So it goes from chastising the man for watching him, and then after asking several questions and the no tongue, and he's going back to the hospital, it turned out basically what we were able to ascertain from the situation is that was the handler that had put him up to doing this. And he was then taking the games that he stole and would sell them elsewhere, but used him as a decoy. It was a brutal situation. You look back, it's like there's ups and downs to this. Like, oh, what a crazy story. It's like, oh, this poor guy was getting worked. Like that's never any fun. But just to put a little color on something that you might see in a situation like this. Kind of crazy. What are some other things in the protecting the assets of a big store that have you run into that maybe folks wouldn't know, or something that wouldn't register with somebody if you've never been there? How do you not get on the radar of somebody? I mean, there are a lot of different angles you can take with this.
So you'd be normal. My wife's someone who's wicked paranoid, who thinks she's being watched. Who's thinking, so can we get off top a little bit?
I mean, that's me. Yeah, of course we can.
TSA. So we go through TSA. This is the most straightforward girl. Has never done anything bad in her life. And she's freaking out. They're going to search us. At one point, Thiago Ruggio, Tan, always get stopped for a random check. Now she's with me.
Sorry, sir. You need to come over here for a random check.
So after starting dating me, she starts getting stopped for random checks. And she's like, on top of the guy, looking at him like he's definitely going to think we have some, which we don't. They're going to find out. But in a retail store, you work normal, though. So some of the things we look for, of course, like I said, that guy was grabbing
random
stuff without looking at it.
Right. That makes perfect sense. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's perfect.
People that are not buying it. I've seen people grab 2 60-inch TVs. It might have happened here and there, but how often does someone literally buy 2 60-inch TVs and that guy walks out?
I've seen somebody try to walk out with those. I remember being there and watching these people try to walk past where there's nobody on a register and just walk out and go, yo, you didn't pay for that in electronics. What happened? Oh, yep, that happened.
Even better, I have seen someone have it on their hands and run up to the front.
Yep.
And a manager says, "Oh my God, do you need a cart?" They gave the guy a cart. And he leaves. How the guy looks surprised.
Wow. I did my job for the day.
We watched this after, a day after when it clicked in our head. But
it's unfortunate how many things can be so comical when you go back and look at them on camera. You could think about that stuff for days. It doesn't always seem so at the time. I mean, does that? Because I would imagine that everybody's not always very receptive to somebody in your position at that time, stopping and questioning them or asking them. I mean, everybody must handle it like, an adult, like a rational human being, right?
Yeah, right.
I couldn't even get it out of a straight face.
And maybe we didn't know if we weren't in this position, but I think a lot of people just think there's no security. And some stores don't have security. Every store has cameras. We know that.
There's nobody there.
Some stores have a little bit of security, not enough, but some stores have a lot.
Some got low.
Some retailers have a good amount, so you're most likely going to get caught. And the fight that you put up saying, I didn't do it.
What's the funniest thing you ever said to somebody when you caught them?
Can we say it on air?
Sure. I mean, I remember watching you one time, and it was just Chappelle came to my mind, and watching you find somebody and walk them out, said, "Oh, I got to go get him." And I was watching and, leading the cameras as they were going. And as soon as you grabbed this one particular guy, you started bringing him back. I said, "Gotcha, bitch." It was hilarious. I don't know what went right. I don't know why it went right to Chappelle, but oh yeah.
But it kind of worked out better because you know why? Usually, if you say like the official thing you're supposed to say, they're like not caught off. I think the person didn't know how to react. Like sometimes they're like, "Oh, you're security and you need to come back with me." Like people are kind of like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
The person didn't know what to do when they said, "Gotcha, bitch." They were like,
"Yeah."
It might have worked out better.
It's funny because the people that know what to do and the ones that don't know what to do, because they're the ones that as soon as they hear somebody talk to them, like, "Hey, you," they start running. Grab them. You know what I mean? Like this. Have you ever been in some tussles?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I have.
Nothing life-threatening, but some tussles.
No, we've had some life-threatening ones. More so, I worked in a city that was it's a very rough neighborhood, and we always had rustle. There was a guy that had rustled 3 people that day, so he was professional boozing. He had gone to a store in the up north.
It was a different. Was it the same chain of stores, or was it a different store? And either way, it sounds like you got word of it before it happened.
Same chain of stores, actually, kind of both. So he was going same chain of stores. Started getting outside, he started making friends with people in other retails, and again, I had stuff. This guy had gone to 3 stores that day. He had fought all 3 securities off. I was one of those stores that had more staff, so I literally had
some backup.
3 security guards on, 2 undercovers, and me, and it took all of us to hold this guy up.
Oh my god!
And we couldn't even handcuff him or do anything, bring him back to the office. We had to hold him on the sidewalk till the cops came. Wow! And I guess he had just assaulted and fought a cop off like 3 days before that.
So you were lucky then.
Yeah, but that happened more often than not in some of these rougher stores.
They try to fight you off. Yeah, I mean, it seems depending on different stores you go to, obviously there's going to be people that are more experienced in doing that. It's more of a racket. Like there's a racket. Like the people that would go around and just wait for somebody the drawer would pop out, and I remember seeing this. They would hop over and just take the money. Like,
oh yeah.
Maybe when there was limited cameras and just the ones from above, maybe, but now there's every single angle covered. And no, you can't. What are you going to get away with? Like, what do you possibly get away with?
Yeah. A lot of people get away with it, but it's going to get recorded, or it's going to find out and catch the second time. That's the best part too, because they always come back.
And this is the thing; they always come back. A and B. There's some serious repercussions that go with this, right? Like what's the kind of you've had to go to court, and they prosecute these people, don't they?
We do, yeah.
That's on
your
damn record.
I was on trial one time for something that wasn't even that big of a deal, but they really wanted to go all the way out. And
Yep. Sometimes it seems like a better idea to fight it, but that's the craziest thing to think about is because I think especially with younger kids too, you don't have that ultimate like end of the line. Like, what's really the worst case scenario? Sometimes shit, and it all depends on how you conduct yourself. If you get caught, how do you conduct yourself? Are you an a-hole? Do you try to get out? Like, are you fighting people? Like, if it all depends. The no-tongue guy, I don't think those guys got in any trouble. And we watched them steal stuff actively, and it was very clear what was happening. But, based on this scenario, like, the cops are looking at us going, are we really going to – come on now.
We're going to call the cops. Like, I had no ID, so we're not supposed to let him go just to run him. But
people at the store don't want to do it. The cops don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, but seriously, after a while, like, it's going to catch up with you. It's going to catch up with you. So just, if you never knew about it and you never knew how bad it was, there could be bad repercussions. So just do the right thing. Don't steal stuff. And you know what's cool too? If a kid, have you ever had to like school any like kids, like younger kids, like little kids with their moms that stole something maybe shouldn't have, and the moms wanted you to teach the kids a lesson? Have you had any of these?
I don't know if that's the best, the worst part, but those are the kind of the funniest because you have a mom bring their 7-year-old back.
Those could be huge.
And it's like, show him what you did. Give it back to him. And the kid pulls out his pocket and gives it to you. And I'm like, but it's someone else's kid, like especially retail. We've had moms before that the kids causing the rucks and everything. You're like, hey, just be careful. And the mom comes yell at you because you yell at their kid. Right.
So I'm like, how much tell him to sit down when he's doing handstands on top of the guy?
Knocking everything down. So I'm like, how much do you want me to yell at your kid?
But the stealing one, you got to lay into them. You got to give it to them.
And I'm like, what happens to those people? You know what happens. They go to jail. They don't get a job. You got to grow up, and you
got to give them like grab them by the shirt and be like, they trade you. They'd be like currency in jail. Like you little blonde-haired, blue-eyed son of a mother. They would trade you around like a magazine, boy.
And I never realized how much it happened even more to the uniformed security guards because one time I was just hanging out with one of the uniformed security guards at the door, just talking to him. And a mom walks by, and as soon as they walk in, she tells the kid, hey, if you touch anything, that guy will arrest you. And I'm like, how often does that happen? Because that was the
visual
guy that was in uniform. And then he goes, it happens like once every 20 minutes or something. That a mom walks in and says, he will arrest you if you do anything, if you touch anything.
Hey, man, that's one less pack of cards you're getting stolen from your establishment like every hour. That's worth the money. He's making up his salary right there.
The best ones as well is when the family goes to the store and the kid is just hanging out in toys. The mom's going to go to the market.
I'll meet you over here in 5 minutes.
Clothing. Yeah. Hey, don't go too far.
Mama got to get a bra.
They steal something away from the parents, and then you have to stop them. Like, hey, is this your kid? Oh, by the way, he stole something when they were there with you.
Yep.
You either get the parent that's like, bring back the house, yelling at them, and then you get the parents that are yelling at me because
they never steal
anything.
How dare you tell me my kid stole something? He didn't steal it. Come on now. Well, those must be at least somewhat rewarding because hopefully you're deterring him from hardened life of crime.
Those are the best. People also think we're just like, there's security and the company has billions and billions, blah 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 blah.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, well, it's a victimless crime because the company has so much money. That's so silly.
Anyone listening to this, if you have $1 million and someone just went and took $100 from you, you're like, oh, it's nothing, like they just went my debit card and took $100. I'm just gonna let it go.
Yeah, right.
Also, until you let it go, then everyone's like, woo.
Yeah, exactly. Then everybody's all just going in there, walking out with their perfume and deodorant and baby formula. Baby formula is a crazy one. That's not something that people know. Y'all steal baby formula. It's not news. They know you steal baby formula, but that's the craziest thing when you don't know about it when they're stealing the baby formula.
The best part is anyone that wasn't in retail and never has stopped to think about this, they automatically bash. Like, you stop someone for stealing baby formula?
How dare you? This is baby formula.
I have probably stopped, not just myself, but between me and my team, the stores I work in, we probably have stopped, no exaggeration, probably 100 people within like 5 years stealing baby formula.
What would you say
one of them?
What would you say the money? Baby. What would you say the recovered money is from in 1 year? Would you say from baby formula?
Ooh. that we just got.
In the thousands, tens of thousands.
That we caught and actually brought back, it would probably be, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like, well, I want to say $3,000 a year, but it's got to be more because sometimes you get the person that just takes everything on the shelf.
I was going to say $5,000 for a hit. They walk out with carts.
You probably get a hit every month, and then some people will just start. They'll hit you every other day. So
thousands of dollars a year.
It's got to be like $10,000
per store is what people are making off with in baby formula. And if we don't know, they're cutting drugs with the baby formula. It's not to feed their kids. They're not trying to, and from every race, creed, religion, everything. Everybody steals baby formula, and they all use it to cut drugs. It's crazy.
Or sell it to punch outs. The funny thing is, not even once,
or at least resell it. Or resell it.
At least use the excuse, like even lie, say, hey, no, I got a baby home, I got to do. None of them even did that.
Sell it on Amazon for $5 less per package than it would be on the thing. It's craziness. Like, if you're going in there, like, you must have the hungriest baby of all if you go in there and clean out every shelf worth of baby formula.
Every other day.
You just walk out with it and go, dude, my kid is hungry as hell. Like, it's crazy the things that you learn, because I never would have thought that. That's nothing that ever would have crossed my mind as a possibility. Like, of course people are stealing baby formula. Yeah. Cough medicine? Yeah, why not? Okay. Sure. Canned air. Ooh, that canned air. That's a tough one. Stealing the canned air.
It's better when they steal it than when they do it in the store. To steal it, just do it right there. Then you have to pick them up and drag them out because they're passed out.
So that's a real situation.
That rough store that I worked at, it's not funny, but
it's something. It's not funny. Again, if you've never experienced this, it's very unfortunate. Anytime you see this type of stuff and you can identify it, but having to deal with it really for being on the other side, lets you see what human beings are all about, and that there's every color and every little bit of every spectrum being covered by human beings. Like, we're up, we're down, we're left, we're right. People are such crazy, intricate animals. It's wild.
It's crazy. Funny about talking about these different stores, so worked some stores that were nicer neighborhoods and some that were really bad neighborhoods. When I started in one that was in a really rough neighborhood, it's kind of funny now, but it's still not funny
in retrospect. Not funny
exactly, yeah. But when I first started there, it's so much heroin in this town, so much heroin, and I guess the recovering clinic, but they really weren't recovered yet. But this van would take people 1 week. They would go to the movie. One Saturday they would go to the movie theater. One Saturday they would go to the park. This Saturday they were coming to shopping. So there's a ton of them. They're literally passing out in the store, crashing into things like really high. The leaners, they're leaning and
taking out whole shelves as they're leaning, trying to walk down an aisle. Yeah.
So this one lady is literally passed out, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Like, this lady's passed out. She's might be dying. So I call 911 and the cop comes in. I'm like, hey, this lady, I think she's really high. A lot, and the cop goes, what do you want me to do? And I'm like,
oh my God. I don't know, help.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some help. I mean, it's tough for me if I don't know what to do, to tell you. I don't know what the expectations are. I don't know.
So he's like
CPR.
Half of the she wasn't like that. She was like leaning passed out, but she was at one point. It's like you just want that around family and stuff like that. And
I'd say so.
Plus something happens, she cracks her head open or something.
Oh yeah.
So he's like, "What do you want me to do? Half of the city is high."
Oh my God.
And he's like, "Whatever." So he walks in with me. He sees her. This lady, I would give her 60. She's probably one of those 40 that look 60. And he goes, "Mary, God damn it! What did I tell you already?" And I'm like, "You know her?" He goes,
We've already had this conversation.
I've been on the force for 25 years, and I've been dealing with her since the day I started. So he just boots her out.
Mary!
And at one point, I didn't even call him anymore. I would just like kind of grab him like right here.
Come on, Mary. Bring him
off the sidewalk.
I mean, you know what? It is very unfortunate. It's the worst thing ever that, folks get to that point. But to have to deal with something like that at your job is crazy. And it gives you almost like a new understanding and appreciation, because if you've never seen anything like that or never been around it or never knew anybody that was, that's going to be a shock.
And how many like moms with their 5-year-olds shopping around?
Nobody wants to see
you really want that like fall on. They'll literally fall on you. They'll literally
and to have it
come and like, hey,
and to have it somebody like you that's, the security of the building and the people therein, the shoppers, the employees, everybody, to have to police that kind of thing, and that's tough. And that's a lot of character built just from there. I mean, that's true to roof. That's true to roof. And that's the thing. I mean, I will always insist. And the whole basis of, all these conversations, this is the first of many, we'll see how this one goes, but this is all in the vein of helping people understand things that maybe they wouldn't before. If you've never been in that position, you never worked in an industry, it's good to hear what the people from that line of work or industry are going through and what their perceptions are. Because if you've never done it, you're not going to know. So it's better to know the more you know. So I don't think we have a whole ton else to cover. I mean, unless you got any horror stories, anything else. I think we've gone through quite a few things, but if you get anything else to add.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't do drugs. All right. Well, peace out. We're out of here. Till the next one, folks.
Peace.